Now, the government has today announced how it is going to improve care for thousands of people living with ME. The Department of Health and Social Care says it is committed to changing attitudes and will offer sufferers access to care in the community closer to home. Now, you may well remember the case of Maeve Boothby O'Neill, who died in 2021, aged 27. She died at home after living with the condition for years. In the final few months of her life, she was confined to bed, she was unable to chew food and had difficulty drinking because she wasn't able to sit up. And Maeve's mum, Sarah Boothby, is here. Morning to you, Sarah. Hi there. This is a really important moment for people living with ME and for friends, for those loved ones who support them. What do you make of what the government's come up with, first of all?
To be honest, I'm in a state of shock today, having read the plan last night. For everybody who is currently in the same situation that I was in with Maeve 4 years ago now, this is going to be terribly, terribly, terribly disappointing. And my understanding of why that is comes from an inquest that took 3 years to investigate before full hearings were opened a year ago today. We had witnesses giving evidence over 2 weeks, and what the coroner heard left her unable to make any recommendations for another 6 weeks after that, because there was a lot to process. The people who understand the illness are the people who live with it, and what the inquest found in its preparation was that there is no expertise anywhere within the NHS, and this plan is not going to provide any. Why that is something for the British medical establishment to answer. And what we experienced during the inquest, and what I can see written throughout this plan, is that there is obstruction coming from the highest level in refusing to commission services for ME that are ME specific. And that's why Maeve died. And during the inquest, because there was an inquest, other families who were facing the same threats that we faced were able to leverage an open inquest to persuade one hospital to change its standard operating procedures to prevent future deaths. There is nothing in this plan that is going to replicate that.
So what the Department for Health and Social Care say is that students, medical students and NHS staff will be offered training modules in how to diagnose, manage and treat ME and chronic fatigue syndrome. They also talk about a public awareness campaign. Schools and social care services will be asked to provide greater support to patients with the condition. And it says it outlines steps to improve research and find treatments, although I know the funding is far less than you'd like it to be. Look, you know about this much better than me, so I'm not going to argue with you at all, but that feels like a step forward. Why do you think it is so inadequate?
Well, first, I would welcome argument, because I am just one voice, and my voice will get stronger through being tested. So please do argue with me if what I say sounds incoherent. I imagine it sounds incoherent because it just doesn't make sense. This plan points to obstruction, which we also found during the inquest, which is coming from NHS England. So the Secretary of State is now responsible for making medical decisions without any medical training on the commissioning of specialist services for an illness like ME, which is far more than chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue does not capture the extent of the illness, which is killing people.
But this word obstruction, which you've used twice,
yeah.
What do you mean by that?
They are actively refusing to commission services for ME.
And why do you think that's the case?
I can only speculate on that, and I'd rather not speculate. I'd really invite you to get people from the British medical establishment to answer that question. So, for example, the BMJ last month used the inquest into Maeve's death to suggest that she was the problem, that she died because she had chronic fatigue. She didn't die because she had chronic fatigue. She died because there was no medical expertise within the NHS, which led then to lots of knock-on effects which other people will experience. It's a national health service. We all depend upon it, whether we like it or not. We all depend upon it. Even if you can afford private health insurance, In an emergency that is life-threatening, it will be the NHS that treats you. For Maeve, it was a life-threatening presentation, and she died because there was no expertise within the NHS that could recognise and treat her symptoms. She was discharged home medically fit 3 times over 7 months, and she died. 2 days before she died, they were still referring me, this is local health, community health service, it was still referring me as being the cause of her illness, that I had fabricated and induced her illness, and that she was subject to coercive control by me. This happens to lots of families when the NHS doesn't know what it's doing and questions the authority of parents and carers. We only know what we're doing because we've learnt from the patient. I understand the limitations on the medical understanding of the cause of ME, but the presentation and the effect of ME has been known about for decades. And I would invite the BMJ not to commission expert opinions from a person who was rejected as an expert witness at the inquest into how Maeve died because he has no expertise in ME. He may be very, very expert in chronic fatigue, but he knows nothing about ME, and that distinction needs to be made.
Do you think any progress has been made in our understanding? I mean, clearly your understanding is deep and exceptional, but in the general public understanding of what this disease is all about, do you think that we have got better at all?
That's a part of the plan that I really welcome, that there is going to be an effort. Patients with ME have had political support for a very, very, very long time. What we don't get is medical support. And that's so deeply entrenched that public awareness is raised at a moment like this when you're talking to someone like me, and then it'll be forgotten because you know as well as I do that there'll be another wave of news coming along shortly behind. This is not the only illness in the world. It's not the only cause of death in the world, and we all understand that. But what we don't understand, and what it doesn't make any sense to me, and the plan does not change any of that, is why politicians have to take the lead on this. Why is there no medical expertise in this country willing to take the lead on this? And that's the question that needs to be asked and answered by our medical profession.
Just give me a sense finally, Sarah, if you would like to, about how much this now has kind of taken over your life.
Well spotted.
Because I hear your anger, which I think our listeners will fully understand and appreciate. And of course, there is the grief of a mother as well, which
Absolutely.
will be overwhelming.
Yeah, it is overwhelming, and I can't. Parental grief is terrible for everybody who experiences it, but I can't get beyond the madness of how Maeve died. She was such a bright, intelligent and capable person, and I know we've got Olympic athletes with ME who can't get a service, who don't get a service because there is no service. And that's what infuriates me. So for sure, you're absolutely right. There's the rage at the gods for taking my only child from me, but there's also this complete incomprehension as to why the medical establishment in this country, particularly because it has led the world on chronic fatigue, refuses to recognise that it got it wrong. ME is not chronic fatigue. It never was. And to characterise people like Maeve and Olympic athletes, who I would put in the same category because she was an outstanding performer. She was an A-star scholar, A-star Russian in a year. That's how bright and able she was. And she was unwell then. Yeah, you're right. I am angry about it, but I'm disappointed and bewildered more than anything else.
Well, you are an incredibly powerful voice on her behalf, and thank you. And I know many other families who find themselves in this position will also be very grateful to you for speaking out as you do. Thank you for talking to us and for helping educate us as well, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
All the best. Sarah Boothby, the mother of Maeve Boothby O'Neill, who died in 2021.